all been good little boys and girls this Christmas? Good. We can't all be villains. I've been feeling the Christmas spirit this year, and by the time you see this, I will have already done my annual Christmas stream. Check it out in my live stream recordings playlist. Today I'm going to bring you another obscure bit of furry-filled film fun, 2006's A Christmas Carol, written by none other than Sean Catherine Derrick, otherwise known as the writer of Foodfight.
How about joining me in a warm rinse?
I'm not that dirty.
According to Wikipedia, Sean is the great-grandniece of Leo Tolstoy, which, damn, Anna Karenina, this ain't. Smirking aside, Sean won an Emmy for outstanding writing in an animated program as a member of the writing team on Batman the Animated Series. The director, Richard Machen, also did a lot of work in the animation department for Batman, so this was kind of a reunion. I love Christmas specials so much, even though they always have a lot of the same messages. The only thing that's really unexpected is how good or bad they are at communicating them. A Christmas Carol is basically the flashpoint for modern Christmas as we know it. It became wildly popular when it was published in the Victorian era, right when many of the things we think of as traditional Christmas celebrations were coming into popularity. Dickens came along and gave the sled a shove, and here we are, still making sexy Tumblr retellings of a book over a century and a half old. Let's dive in, shall we? First of all, let me be clear that London does not extend beyond the borders of these houses. I'd like to point out the textures, which are very bad for a movie in 2006. Actually, everything is kind of bad for a 2006 movie. I know it probably didn't have the budget of, let's say, Monster House, but a tiny bit of attention to detail would have helped a lot. Notably, a lot of the characters look like they'd be better in 2D. I'm not just saying that because I'm biased toward hand-drawn animation or because these models are cel-shaded in an attempt to evoke a 2D style, but because most of these models probably look good on paper and don't translate to 3D, as you'll see throughout the film. They actually have quite a few models throughout, which is kind of impressive. There's about 25 unique models in these 3 opening shots alone. I think they might even have more unique models than Zootopia. They're not good models, but there are a lot of them. Every bunny in the Cratchit family, for example, looks like a different species.
And everyone deserves a little cheer at Christmas. Oh.
So, rich person equals skunk, because the rich are repulsive and rotten and foul, all things that real skunks aren't.
A farthing short, as sure as my name is Ebenezer Scrooge.
Real skunks don't smell unless they spray or have sprayed recently. Meanwhile, foxes reek around the clock. Also, equating Scrooge's regrettable personality to the foulness of a skunk is kind of undermined by his sweet boy nephew.
Merry Christmas, Uncle Ebenezer! And you too, Mr. Cratchit!
Cratchit, meanwhile, is a member of the working poor, and I think it's unfortunate that they chose a rabbit because it implies classist mass breeding gags. But this is a movie with a lot of strange choices, including these whirling, nauseous camera angles that kind of make you feel like you're a ghost, maybe Marley, as yet invisible, flying around as you spy on the proceedings. Scrooge has these horrifying mouse roommates who offend me for reasons I can't quite put my finger on.
Not only is Scrooge the cheapest man on earth, but his house is haunted!
I think they're supposed to be us, witnessing the arrival of Marley, a monstrous, freak-legged... Oh, he's a grasshopper. Oh, I see what you did there. Nicely done.
Me? Wind up like you? Like that?
Legs broken backward and constantly on fire?
Leave me alone!
It seems I've scared him off.
So I have a question. Is the talking pillow a part of the original story? It seems just weird enough to be possible. I love this chesty crane lady referencing pillow talk.
Oh, it's just pillow talk.
A phrase which explicitly refers to afterglow conversations between sexual partners. She is the ghost of Christmas past, of course. And what is really going on with the hairstyles in this movie? They're another piece of evidence that the film suffers from 2D design clumsily transferred to 3D-itis. This movie was produced by BKN International, aka the Bobot Kids Network, which actually had a whole suite of furry public domain movies in the 2000s, allowing them to reuse models left and right. This adaptation follows most of the standard Christmas Carol story beats, first showing us Scrooge's miserable childhood.
You made it home in time to spend Christmas Eve with us!
I'm sending you to boarding school. It's for the best. You leave first thing tomorrow morning.
And then his young adulthood.
Merry Christmas, Abby. I've come to tell you the most amazing news. I'm getting married.
Wow, his sister is cute. Most Scrooge movies involve some form of teleportation, but this is the first time I've seen them dip into the Matrix.
Time we be jumping ahead. Look what I brought you for Christmas.
Great, you've brought me an extremely high baby. Next up is the Ghost of Christmas Present.
I am the ghost of Christmas present.
He's a kangaroo with a colossal ass for ignorance and want to cling to, and a didgeridoo is constantly playing whenever he's on screen.
As in now, not Christmas presents. Folks often get confused.
The fact that Mrs. Cratchit is this colossal titan begs the question of food consumption in the Cratchit household. She's built like a linebacker. Then we're off to Scrooge's nephews for this song, carol thing that they're singing.
Hey, 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 holiday, time to sing and time to play. Up you get, sleepyhead, there are presents by your bed.
Is this real? Did Alan Bobot write this? What's with this tooth frog? Speaking of teeth, isn't it interesting the way female skunks have differentiated canine teeth and male skunks have a single tooth ring? Our final ghost is a walrus grim reaper with a broken tusk acting as a scythe.
I am the ghost of Christmas future.
Proving even the hottest, messiest movie can have an inspired idea or three. I love this version because instead of dying, Tiny Tim grows up to be an asshole just like Scrooge.
Well, I wish you a Merry Christmas, Tiny Tim.
Leave me alone, you old goat! There's nothing merry about it.
When he's checking out his own grave, we get these echoes of Robin Hood bondage coming in.
The ghost of Jacob Marley. And me! No!
In the morning, Scrooge accosts an awful giant-headed schnauzer child.
What day is this?
What day? Why, it's Christmas Day, of course.
And gets a Christmas roast from a gay Minnesota moose.
I promise you'll have the biggest and best in my shop for your Mr. Bob Cratchit, But, you're sure you don't want me to tell him who it's from now?
Interestingly, they only show it wrapped up and don't disclose what it is, probably to avoid any untoward meat eating by these rabbits.
Yes, I think the spirit of Christmas has found Mr. Scrooge at long last.
After a saccharine monologue from Tiny Tim, we head back to Scrooge's nephew's house.
Everyone's already here.
The niece-in-law's skunk mask does not translate well to the 3D. It looks like her fur got burned off and she's wearing a prosthetic or something. Look at Cratchit's face while Scrooge is fake firing him. He's considering pulling a Luigi. Quick note about the voice actors. To hear more of Scrooge's actor Tim Bentinck,
Oh, don't worry, Bob. I have not suddenly lost hold of my senses.
look no further than Dark Souls 2's Steady Hand Macduff.
I'm Macduff the blacksmith. All I want is a little flame.
Or the mumbling innards of Elden Ring. Or maybe Guru in Eiyuden Chronicles.
One thing led to another. What about you, mate?
Teresa Gallagher, both Tiny Tim
To Mr. Scrooge.
and the Ghost of Christmas Past
Especially since you wound up such a grumpy old codger.
may be more familiar to you as Nicole from Gumball.
Excuse me, Penny. Have you got a second?
Meanwhile, Keith Wickham, who plays Marley,
What you see before you is my just reward in the afterlife.
and the Ghosts of Christmas Present and Future,
That's the spirit! Just grab hold of me!
Leg?
No, silly!
can be heard as Dual Magus in Dragon Quest VIII.
If it isn't King Toad, looking as small and ugly as ever.
Connections like this never fail to surprise me. Let this serve as a reminder that the voice actors in even small productions are usually serious talents. Amazingly, this was broadcast in theaters in December 2006 by distributor Kid Toon Films, which played a bunch of low-rent kids' movies, typically in weekend morning matinees, the only time working parents could really take their small children to the theater. One of the most profound things about A Christmas Carol is how staunchly old-school Christian, and thus socialist and anti-capitalist, the themes are. Despite also having no inherent problem with a system which creates hunger and poverty, the symptoms, not the cause. Charity becomes this paternalistic act that you do and then continue on trying to be the biggest company with the largest profits. According to Dickens, it's fine if companies are ruthless as long as they give their employees days off for Christmas and as long as they contribute to good causes. But a lot of corporations do contribute to good causes as a form of blue washing, or recently greenwashing, and this doesn't exactly absolve them of wrongdoing. For the longest time, I couldn't understand how the people in charge can expect us to watch Christmas Carol movies all our lives and then grow up to support policies, politicians, and people who vilify the poor and espouse increasingly antisocial beliefs. But now I do. We are expected to view charity as an act of glorious self-importance, an acknowledgement by the haves of the lowly have-nots, which both cements class differences and casts those with means as altruistic angels coming down from their glorious perch to sprinkle pennies into the withered hands of starving unfortunates. So much charity only occurs because of tax deductions, and by the way, every time a retail store asks you to round up to donate, it's so that you can pay for their write-off. Instead, consider giving to a cause that you believe in yourself. Now, charity is all well and good, but it will never solve the world's problems and has been co-opted by all sorts of capital vultures, from those found misappropriating funds to those donating to pet causes to influence policymaking in their favor, once again putting democratic power in the hands of billionaires and temporarily embarrassed billionaires. Molten gold flows ever to Mammon, I suppose. Only dismantling exploitative power structures will ever make any tangible difference for the people suffering beneath them. If we solve the housing crisis, it will do a lot more for the average homeless person than buying them a new pair of shoes from a multi-billion-dollar shoe manufacturer which employs child labor. And isn't that why politicians and supposed cool outsider non-politicians, who are somehow even more corrupt than the insiders, decry the idea of direct cash payouts, which have been proven highly effective at ameliorating homelessness? Because if the poor and vulnerable are getting cash, they're getting speech, and policymakers don't want to hear what poor people have to say. All this is to say that the Christmas Carol's message can be interpreted many ways by many people. Of course, consider volunteering some time to a soup kitchen or adopting a kid's Christmas list and playing Santa, but also consider how most of the problems of want and ignorance are caused by the system which allows the rich to grow richer while the poor become poorer. Considering that resources are finite, why are we surprised when there are so many homeless and hungry when the rich are allowed to hoard as much as they want, even breaking already biased rules to do so? If you have a problem with this message and aren't a super rich individual, understand that my heart lies with you, with your safety, happiness, and betterment, and that no amount of bootlicking will make you one of them. If you want a good Christmas Carol adaptation, my top 3 picks are Richard Williams' 1971 Oscar-winning version.
There's more of gravy than of grave about you.
The Muppet Christmas Carol.
Don't ask him for a favor, 'cause his nastiness increases.
No crust of bread for those in need.
No cheeses for us Mises.
And the 1994 Jetlag Productions version, directed by Toshiyuki Hiruma and Takashi Matsunaga. It's a musical with some sequences that are so unsettling, I actually had to turn it off the first time I saw it last year.
Christmas is a time to teach you. Be good to others or take the
the 1984 George C. Scott Carol is also awesome.
It may well be that in the sight of heaven you are more worthless and less fit to live than millions like this poor man's child.
Scott plays Scrooge as a sardonic joker rather than a frowning malcontent, and it really communicates his auto-cannibalistic nihilism. Now that I've said the magic Christmas phrase, auto-cannibalistic nihilism, I can end this episode. Thank you to all my viewers and have a Merry Christmas. I couldn't do this without you. I'd also like to thank my wonderful Patreon supporters. For only $5, you can hear me suck your name into a point like a candy cane. So thank you, Reese Warren, Kadath, Dornassus, Chronoflash, Dominic Foxley, Victor the Mewtwo, Kilbaro Khan, JF, Delano Possum, Alex McFall, Joe the English Otter, Silly Scotty Dog, Kooky Trails, Plexel, Stubadub, Crown, Norman Whitetail, Princess Isabella, Vera Lycaon, and Miorja. Thanks so much, everyone, and see you in the new year.